On the 3rd of September 2013 in Helsinki, Finland, a press conference dubbed by the global media as the most tragic funeral in tech history was underway. Nokia CEO Stephen Elop stood on stage with a large screen behind him displaying Nokia's mobile phone business, sold to Microsoft for $7.2 billion. With tears streaming down his face, he uttered those now famous words that have been repeatedly cited by countless business schools. "We did not make any mistakes, but somehow we lost." The engineers in the audience were moved to tears, and citizens spontaneously gathered at Nokia's headquarters to pay their respects with flowers. At the time, 4% of Finland's GDP was supported by Nokia. Its fall was almost treated as a national mourning event, and for that month every tech publication sang an elegy with headlines varying little in essence: the end of an era. Everyone believed this marked the end for Nokia, but today I am going to reveal a completely counterintuitive fact. 12 years later, this seemingly defunct company is now extracting over 19 billion euros annually from pockets around the world, equivalent to roughly $650 billion. Whether you are using 5G, watching short videos, or buying any smartphone, be it Apple, Samsung, Huawei, or Xiaomi, you are indirectly contributing to Nokia's coffers. More astonishingly, just last October, Huang of Nvidia personally paid $1 billion for a 2.9% stake in Nokia. Upon announcement, Nokia's stock price surged by 26% on the same day. You might wonder, is this still Nokia we are talking about? Nvidia is known for its AI chips. So, why would the world's most valuable company, with a market cap of $5 trillion today, vote for an outdated Nokia? In this video, I will delve into the most covert and ingenious resurrection in Nokia's business history. 4 key points will be covered. First, how formidable was the company at its peak, even selling items like toilet paper, rain boots, and gas masks. Second, what led to its downfall, a reality vastly different from popular narratives. Third, how it quietly revived itself, a move missed by 99% of observers. Fourth, why Huang is betting on it, harboring the technology secrets for the next decade. After watching this episode, you will redefine one thing: the most dangerous opponent isn't one that can be defeated, but one that pretends to be dead. Let's start from the beginning of our story. Before discussing Nokia, I need to ask you a question. What do you think was Nokia's original business? If your first thought is mobile phones, it means you only understand its recent 30 years. In fact, Nokia's history dates back 160 years to 1865, when an engineer named Fredrik Idestam founded a pulp mill on the Nokia River in southwestern Finland. Yes, you heard that right, Evan, paper pulp. The operation was straightforward: cutting trees, grinding them into pulp, and producing paper. Specifically, they produced toilet paper. This was Nokia's 1.0 version, a pulp mill in a small Finnish town, seemingly inconsequential. However, the real surprises were yet to come. Over the next century, Nokia amassed an impressive list of achievements that would leave you astounded. They manufactured rubber boots used by Finns for snow collection at the beginning of the 20th century, produced bicycle tires later exported to the Soviet Union, manufactured cables connecting all of Finland, and made televisions likely found in every Finnish living room during the 1970s. Even more strikingly, they manufactured gas masks supplied to both Finnish and Soviet armies during World War II. They also developed military communication devices, a pivotal move that would later prove crucial. Have you noticed a pattern with Nokia from the very beginning? It's changed. The company did not obsess over any single product. Instead, it focused on capturing the most lucrative avenue of each era. This shameless ability to transform is what allowed Nokia to transition from a mobile phone empire into a 5G giant. What truly propelled Nokia into the Chinese market was a decision made in 1992. That year, Nokia took an action that all executives deemed crazy, shutting down every other business and selling off its rubber factory, cable plant, and television operations, betting everything on a field that few saw potential in at the time: mobile communications. The decision was led by Nokia's new CEO, Jorma Ollila. In an internal meeting, he made this bold statement: "In the future, everyone will have a phone." What did it mean to say this in 1992? At that time, the global number of mobile users combined was less than 20 million. A single mobile device weighed around 800 grams, like a brick, and the cost of a 1-minute call could easily cover a meal. No company believed ordinary people needed to carry phones with them. Yet Ollila's bet paid off. The subsequent events are well known. Nokia achieved the most spectacular rise in human business history from the 90s through the 2000s. In 1998, it became the global market leader, dethroning Motorola. By 2000, its market valuation reached $250 billion, surpassing both Apple and Microsoft combined at that time. By 2007, 1 in every 3 phones sold globally was a Nokia device, with a market share of over 40%. In the second quarter of 2008, Nokia sold more than 100 million units, a figure only approached by Apple during its peak years. How dominant was Nokia back then? Let me highlight a few details for context. First, Finland, a small country with a population of just 5.5 million, had 4% of its GDP supported solely by Nokia. The company's tax contributions accounted for 25% of the Finnish government's annual revenue. Graduating engineers from Finnish universities aspired most to join Nokia. That was the highest paying and best welfare company in all of Europe, without a doubt. Second, Nokia's R&D investment in 2007 was 4 times that of Apple. Its engineering team had already been internally testing touchscreen phones and app stores, even developing prototypes of internet-capable smartphones, this at least 2 years before the iPhone's release. Third, the Nokia 3310 sold a staggering 126 million units worldwide. What does this mean? It is one of the highest-selling mobile devices in human history, with few products breaking that record to this day. At this point you might ask, how did such a powerful company fall? This is what I will address next. Before continuing, let me mention that this video has received support from our sponsors. Nokia was exceptional because it dared to bet big on the most promising opportunities in each era. In 1992, it correctly wagered on mobile communications, leading to its 2 decades of glory. But how did Nokia ultimately collapse? Let me clarify. Nokia was not brought down by Jobs or the iPhone. What truly doomed Nokia were internal meeting minutes and a later, mass-circulated memo titled, "Burning Platform." Before discussing how Nokia met its demise, let me ask you this. On the 9th of January 2007, when Steve Jobs revealed the first-generation iPhone on stage in San Francisco, what were Nokia's executives doing? Were they in a panic, hastily convening emergency meetings and urgently adjusting their product strategy? Not at all. According to the later, disclosed meeting minutes, after watching Steve Jobs unveil the first-generation iPhone in San Francisco, Nokia's executives collectively concluded that this device was nothing but a dead end. Their reasoning sounded quite plausible. Firstly, the iPhone could not be easily replaced with a new battery, a critical flaw given that batteries needed daily replacement at that time. Secondly, the iPhone had abysmal signal strength. It frequently dropped calls in early American versions, while Nokia's communication capabilities were unmatched. Thirdly, the iPhone was only equipped with 2G technology, whereas Nokia already dominated the market with 3G devices. Lastly, priced at $499, the iPhone was 3 times more expensive than mainstream phones, then making it unsuitable for mass adoption. Nokia's engineers even conducted a drop test report, dropping an iPhone from 1 meter onto concrete, and found that its screen shattered upon impact. This led to their conclusion during meetings: consumers would not accept a phone so fragile as to break with just 1 drop. This might sound absurd now, but put yourself in the shoes of Nokia's CEO at the time, a company holding 40% global market share, boasting the industry's strongest engineering team, and quadruple the R&D investment compared to Apple. Having dominated the market for a decade, would you be swayed by a computer company suddenly releasing a phone so fragile it shatters on impact? Would they overturn their strategic achievements of the past decade? No, no one in their right mind would do that. This was Nokia's first trap. Their overwhelming success had made them complacent and unwilling to doubt themselves. The real downfall of Nokia was a single meeting, but rather the operating system behind it, Symbian. Symbian, simply put, was Nokia's own mobile phone operating system, akin to today's iOS and Android. Prior to 2007, Symbian was the most advanced mobile OS globally, installed in over 60% of smartphones worldwide, a true dominator. However, Symbian had a fatal flaw. It was designed for keypad phones. Nokia's engineers actually tested touchscreen phone prototypes as early as 2004 and found them quite promising. Yet, when it came to mass production, an intense internal debate erupted. If they were to produce touchscreen phones, the Symbian system would need a complete rewrite. What did this mean? It meant starting from scratch with tens of millions of lines of code, hundreds of thousands of applications, and over 10,000 partner developers. To make matters worse, Symbian's code was so convoluted that even changing one line in its kernel required 3 months of testing. The system had been patched countless times. Any modification could potentially cause a cascading failure. Thus, Nokia made an unfathomable decision today to continue patching and maintaining Symbian, using a keypad-era operating system to compete with the touchscreen iPhone. This is the second trap Nokia fell into, where its moat turned into a coffin. Over the next 3 years, what happened was almost a slow and visible death. In 2008, the Apple Store launched with applications exceeding 100,000 within a year. Meanwhile, the Symbian store had only reached 20,000 apps. In 2009, Google introduced the free Android system, prompting Samsung, HTC and Motorola to switch, but Nokia refused Android and stuck with Symbian. The iPhone 4 was released in 2010, setting Retina displays as an industry standard. However, the latest Nokia Model N8 still used a user interface designed in 2003. By the end of 2010, Nokia's market share had dropped from 40% to 28%, and its stock price was halved. The board panicked and made a decision. They replaced the CEO. In September of that year, Stephen Elop, a Canadian, descended upon Finland as the first non-Finnish CEO in Nokia's 1945-year history. 5 months after taking office, Elop did something that shocked the entire world. In February 2011, he sent an internal memo to all employees titled "The Burning Platform." This document was later leaked to the media and went viral globally. Let me read you a few lines. We stand on a burning platform, with flames raging beneath our feet and an endless abyss behind us. We must make a choice. Should we choose to perish in the flames or plunge into the freezing waters? This memo is the most famous in business history, second to none. Stephen Elop used this letter to inform all Nokia employees that their defeat was inevitable, and they had to make a desperate gamble. Subsequently, he announced a decision for which countless people would later condemn him as a traitor. Nokia was abandoning the Symbian system and pivoting entirely to Microsoft's Windows Phone system. This decision pushed Nokia straight into the abyss. Why? Because at that time even Microsoft itself lacked confidence in Windows Phone. Its app ecosystem was even more inferior than Symbian's, and its user experience was a full era behind iOS and Android. Nokia staked everything it had, taking a desperate gamble on a ship that was already taking on water. You probably know what happened next. In 2011, Nokia released its first Windows Phone, the Lumia 800, to dismal sales. In 2012, Nokia suffered a single-quarter loss of €1.4 billion, and its stock price plummeted by 90%. In 2013, Nokia's SaaS market capitalization shrank from $250 billion to a mere $15 billion. In September of that same year, Nokia announced it was selling its mobile phone business to Microsoft for $7.2 billion, a 94% depreciation in value compared to 5 years prior. Over the course of 5 years, $250 billion vanished into thin air. This was the swiftest and most absolute collapse in business history, completely unparalleled. Yet, One detail after the press conference was overlooked by many. Eloop stepped down from the podium behind the stage. A group of veteran Nokia engineers surrounded Elam. These engineers had followed Nokia for over 2 decades, watching it grow from a small Finnish company into a global giant, only to witness its collapse under their watch. They did not blame Elam, they simply looked at him with tears and asked one question. Is there really no other way? Elam did not answer. This conversation was later recounted to a New York Times reporter by an anonymous Nokia executive. The day the article was published, Finland mourned, believing that Nokia's story had come to an end, but they were mistaken. At the moment when Elam wept and stepped off the stage, a completely different script quietly began within Nokia. The first move of this new narrative was spending €17 billion on a company that baffled everyone. In September 2013, Nokia sold its mobile business to Microsoft. During the same month, they took another critical step, establishing a new division under the codename Networks Business Group. This department took over Nokia Siemens Networks, a subsidiary specialized in telecommunications infrastructure such as 5G base stations and fiber optic telecommunications switches. While everyone was focused on how Nokia's mobile business would fare, no one paid attention to this unassuming subsidiary. But what followed was truly the direction Nokia intended to take. In April 2015, Nokia announced a shocking piece of news. They were spending €15.6 billion to acquire the French telecommunications company Alcatel, Lucent equivalent to approximately NT $530 billion. This sum represented 80% of Nokia's entire market value at the time, practically betting everything they had on this acquisition. What was the state of Alcatel-Lucent? It had been in consecutive losses for 5 years, with its stock price plummeting by 70%. The industry considered it a hot potato in telecommunications. Upon release of this news, global financial media were unanimous in their pessimistic outlook. Bloomberg titled an article Nokia's last suicide, while Reuters was even harsher, stating that the Finns had gone mad. At Nokia shareholder meeting, shareholders stood up to confront CEO, challenging him. You just sold off the mobile phone business and are now using this money to buy a losing company. Are you here to liquidate Nokia? But Nokia's CEO Rajeev Suri only said one sentence in response. We are not buying Alcatel, Lucent, we are buying the future of 5G. 5 years later, everyone was silenced. Because that ridiculed acquisition over 5 years directly gave Nokia a game-changing asset, the world's most comprehensive telecommunications patent portfolio. The predecessor to Alcatel, Lucent, was the legendary Bell Labs. What level was this laboratory at? Throughout human history, 9 Nobel laureates originated from this laboratory: the transistor, laser, Unix system, C language and information theory. These cornerstones of modern information technology were all invented at Bell Labs. Bell Labs' telecommunications patents began accumulating in the 1G era, spanning over 4 decades. When Nokia acquired these assets, it absorbed all these patents into its portfolio. After the merger, Nokia's telecommunications patent holdings shot up to third globally, alongside Huawei and Ericsson. What does this mean? It means that from that day forward, any company worldwide manufacturing phones, base stations, routers, or any networked devices had to pay Nokia a licensing fee. This marked a complete shift in business models. Nokia transformed from a consumer electronics seller into an infrastructure provider for the industry, switching from B2C to B2B. Instead of profiting from each smartphone sold, they now made money from the entire industry. Whether you bought an Apple or Huawei phone, Nokia would take its cut. The 5G base stations on your apartment buildings were likely built by Nokia, behind China Telecom, Taiwan Mobile, and Far EasTone's 4G networks are equipment supplied by Nokia. Every video stream you watch passes through one of their nodes. Nokia did not need you to know them, it only mattered that they were used daily. This was the most astute pivot in Nokia's business history, completing an 8-year transition from disruptee to disruptor with little media scrutiny, because the media was still writing about his funeral stories. But there's more to come. Simply selling base stations is arduous, But Nokia's real trump card is another business that requires virtually no cost yet brings in billions annually, the patent cash cow. Let me ask you a question. What kind of business can achieve near 100% gross margins? Selling software? No, because you have to maintain engineers' luxury goods. Not quite, as the gross margin for Louis Vuitton is around 60%. Premium liquor like Métis boasts a ceiling of about 90%. However, there is one business that can achieve a gross margin of 99.7%, and this business is called patent licensing. This means that patents developed through past investments generate income whenever they are utilized by others, without the need for factories, employees, inventory, or sales efforts. The revenue starts flowing automatically from the moment contracts are signed. Nokia ranks among the world's leading companies in this lucrative avenue, and here's some data to illustrate just how extraordinary it is. In 2024 alone, Nokia earned €1.3 billion purely from patent licensing fees, which amounts to approximately NT $45 billion. Out of these €1.3 billion, after deducting a small amount for legal and operational costs, the remainder is nearly pure profit. The financial report shows that this department boasts an astonishing 99.7% gross margin. I almost didn't believe my eyes when I first saw this number. What does 99.7% mean? For every €100 in patent fees collected, the text cuts off here, but it was leading into a further explanation of the high profitability and efficiency of Nokia's patent licensing business model. €99.7 are direct earnings. Such a business model is unparalleled among all publicly traded companies worldwide. So why has Nokia excelled so remarkably? It holds the trump card that global smartphone manufacturers cannot avoid, the 5G standard essential patents. What are standard essential patents? Simply put, these patents you must use. They are unavoidable. Any company making 5G phones will inevitably utilize Nokia's technology. How many patents did Nokia contribute to the 5G standards? According to statistics from China Academy of Information and Communications Technology, Nokia ranks 6th globally with a share of 6.82% of total 5G patents. This might not seem like much at first glance. However, within this 6.82%, there are numerous foundational architecture patents that every 5G phone manufacturer must use. Nokia charges €3 per 5G smartphone sold. While this may not sound expensive, the global scale makes it significant. In 2024, global sales of 5G smartphones are expected to reach about 900 million units. If each unit pays €3 to Nokia, that amounts to €2.7 billion in pure profit, equivalent to nearly NT $100 billion. In reality, through negotiations and cross-licensing agreements, Nokia's annual patent fee revenue is approximately €1.3 billion, a staggering figure indeed. More ruthlessly, enforcing patent fees often requires litigation. Over the past decade, Nokia has engaged in patent lawsuits with almost all major smartphone manufacturers worldwide. Apple, Samsung, HTC, Oppo, Vivo, and Xiaomi all have faced lawsuits from Nokia. In 2016, Nokia sued Apple for infringing on 32 patents across 11 countries. The legal battle lasted less than a year before Apple surrendered, signing a 7-year patent license agreement that included a one-time payment of €2 billion to Nokia. By 2021, Nokia had shifted its focus to Oppo, filing lawsuits simultaneously in Germany, the UK, France, India, Indonesia, and China, a total of 12 countries. This litigation stretched for nearly 3 years before Oppo was forced into a settlement in 2023. The exact amount was undisclosed, but industry estimates suggest it exceeded €1 billion. Nokia's patent team is often referred to as the patent reapers. Their strategy is straightforward and ruthless: simultaneous global lawsuits, compelling adversaries to sign contracts due to the unsustainable costs of protracted litigation. This reflects Nokia's current reality. While they no longer sell phones directly to consumers, their patents are embedded in every smartphone sold. Though they no longer advertise, they maintain a critical presence in each 5G base station. They don't need you to remember their name, but they ensure annual revenues of billions of euros from pockets around the world. The so-called funeral in 2013 was actually one of the most brilliant comebacks in business history. But that is not all. Just last year, someone approached Nokia looking to invest. This individual is the boss of the world's most valuable company. On the 28th of October 2025, at NVIDIA's GTC conference held in Washington, D.C., Jensen Huang took to the stage wearing his signature black leather jacket. Midway through his speech, he suddenly paused and looked out to the audience. Today, he announced, I have something important to share. We have formed a strategic partnership with Nokia. The crowd fell silent for 2 seconds before applause erupted. However, media reporters were bewildered. How could NVIDIA, a leader in AI chip technology valued at nearly $5 trillion, be linked with Nokia, an outdated telecommunications infrastructure provider? Their business scopes seemed worlds apart. Yet, the details Huang revealed next left everyone on the edge of their seats. NVIDIA planned to invest $1 billion directly into Nokia, acquiring 2.9% of its shares. On that day alone, Nokia's stock surged by 26%. Why did Jensen Huang place his bet on Nokia? The answer lay in another statement he made during his speech. Telecommunications is a $3 trillion industry, with millions of cell towers worldwide, and their aim was to upgrade all these stations using AI, a market worth $3 billion. In essence, Huang's interest lies in next-generation communication technology, AI RAN. To put it simply, the 5G base stations currently in use are fundamentally like mute devices. They only transmit signals without any processing, optimization, or learning capabilities. The upcoming generation of base stations, however, will be equipped with AI chips. Once installed, the base station is no longer just a passive node. It learns, optimizes itself, and processes data independently. For example, when using autonomous driving in your car, previous base stations could only transmit data to the cloud and back, with latency potentially reaching several hundred milliseconds. With AI integrated, however, the base station can process this locally, reducing latency to mere milliseconds. To achieve this, two key components are required: the most powerful AI chips and the most advanced base station equipment. The top-tier AI chip is undoubtedly from NVIDIA, while the leading base station equipment comes from Nokia. This explains why Huang Rensheng Jensen Huang is investing $1 billion. He intends to equip every future Nokia base station with NVIDIA GPUs. Under their agreement, all of Nokia's future 5G and 6G base stations will adopt NVIDIA's chip architecture. In return, NVIDIA leverages Nokia's extensive global client network to deploy its GPUs across millions of base stations worldwide. This is a win-win scenario. Nokia secures entry into the AI era, while NVIDIA establishes a strong foothold in telecommunications. How significant is this market? According to OMDA forecasts, by 2030, the cumulative size of the AI run market will exceed $200 billion. In essence, Nokia is entering a $1 trillion market. By now, it should be clear that Nokia is not an outdated company. Rather, it was one that proactively exited the smartphone sector in 2013 when many believed it had fallen behind. Instead, Nokia quietly positioned itself on the new ship of communication infrastructure. Now, he is preparing to board a third vessel, the AI-driven next-generation communication network. This company over the past 160 years has leaped from paper mills to rubber factories, then to television sets, from televisions to mobile phones, and from mobile phones to 5G. Now, it's making another leap from 5G to AI. Each time a jump was made, everyone believed that this would be the company's downfall, yet each landing has been higher than the last. Reflecting on the entire story, my strongest impression is this: we have seen too many tales of companies being disrupted in our era: Nokia by Apple, Kodak by digital cameras, Blockbuster by Netflix, Yahoo by Google. These stories are repeated endlessly and have become the quintessential cautionary tales in business schools. However, seldom do we delve into a deeper question: is there any company that can resurrect itself after being disrupted? Nokia provides an answer. It is possible, but only if one first acknowledges defeat. In 2011, when Elope issued his now infamous burning platform memo, he was lambasted worldwide. Finns denounced him as a traitor to the nation, employees accused him of self-destruction, and media portrayed him as digging his own grave. Retrospectively, however, this memo may be one of the most courageous documents in business history. He did something that virtually no failing company can achieve: admit defeat before actually falling. Most companies truly fail not because their competitors are too strong, but because they delude themselves until their very end, still insisting, "I have no problems." He was certain he could win back. Nokia did not do this. In 2011, they admitted, "We lost, we must leave the ship of mobile phones." Then they quickly boarded the next vessel. This is where Nokia truly excelled, not for creating groundbreaking phones or collecting hefty patent fees, but for possessing a rare ability among companies: the willingness to abandon their most glorious past. Jobs did not kill Nokia, neither did the iPhone. The real killer of old Nokia was Nokia itself. And by extinguishing that old version of themselves, they transformed into today's new Nokia, a company hidden from plain sight, annually extracting revenue from pockets worldwide. The world's most dangerous adversary is never one that cannot be defeated, but one that feigns death. Nokia being the epitome of this deceptive strategy.